Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm delighted to be joined by Liam Carrigan, who's in the pink. Absolutely. Were you in the pink when you seen the starting 11 though, Liam? That's the big question.
My first response was, that's interesting. I don't know, good or bad, I don't know, but definitely interesting. Definitely not what I was expecting.
No, it isn't. And I think that, as we always do, we go through the starting 11. And I think we'll take a bit of time on this one. We've never seen this 11 footballers starting together in a game. And before we do that, for anyone who's not seen it, we will bring up the graphic, etc. It's an untested starting 11 insofar as they've never played together for Celtic. We are forced, Liam, and I think this is one of the big talking points, we're forced to do it due to our inability to have a cushion the other night against Kairat. So we really are having to, save the legs and really bring the risk of injury right down for the return game. Therefore, many players are being rested today. So before we bring up the unfamiliar team group, that's the narrative, isn't it? That's the context in which this team's been selected.
Yeah, but it should still be enough to get the job done.
Well, you look at some of the teams.
With respect to Livingston, we should still win with that team.
I know, and you do. You don't approach these things, Liam, by saying that we are Celtic and we're just going to trample over everybody.
No,
I think we always respect the opposition, but there are definitely certain teams that you are able to. And I think sometimes my frustration with bleeding youngsters is there's a certain games like say today on a normal day without any injuries and without the worry of the second leg of the European game, whereby you might start a couple of guys like Donovan, for example, in a game like today, and then maybe with 35 minutes on the clock or half an hour left to go, you bring in another 2 or 3, you start getting the game time in their legs. And over a season, there's maybe a dozen games like that where they're kind of safe. No disrespect to opposition, but it's a safe game to try this, is what I'm trying to say, Liam.
Hi, I mean, obviously, fingers crossed this does not happen, but we could lose today. But as long as we win the following 2 games, it does not matter.
That's tough. That's tough talking, Liam. But in the great scheme of things, you're right. You are right. And I never ever go into a game hoping that we lose the game. Even the other night there, because there was a few Acsom contributors who were quite confident going into the game, they were criticised afterwards. You're so complacent. Honestly, do you think it would go down well if we said, "Oh, by the way, I think we'll draw on each here, or they'll beat us 1-0"? No. So we generally are quite positive going into these matches. For anyone who hasn't seen the team lines, I'm going to bring up the Celtic one first. There's Tony Ralston sporting the new curtains. That's a throwback to the kind of Happy Mondays era of Manchester. Is it coming back? I don't know. I just kept mine for 20 years after they were in fashion to hope that it came back, and it never ever did. Liam, I'm now stuck in a kind of period between, 99 and 2003, and I'm hoping that comes back. And if it doesn't, I've been called a well end, amongst other things.
I've been called something that rhymes with that, but we won't go into that.
I don't think Paul Weller's ever gone for this Bosch. Anyway, starting 11. Kasper Schmeichel in goals. We've got Tony Ralston at right back. That's necessity, and we'll have a wee chat about where we are with the right back situation as well going forward. At left back, Inamura. Now, again, we've had some really interesting discussions across the pre-season mainly about the fact that he came in, kind of under the radar because, low profile, low key signing, 250 grand, etc., etc. But he did impress. He did impress in the pre-season. But just this week, Liam, Brendan Rodgers has said that defensively he wasn't confident that he had the minerals for this. Mind you, he didn't say Livy. He did say if we were playing Barcelona.
Aye, but at the end of the day, the only way that Inamura is going to prove that he can cut it at Celtic is by playing in competitive matches and playing well. So this is the platform. This is what we've been waiting for. Everybody who pre-season was saying, he looks good in a friendly, but how's he going to be in a competitive match? The manager saying, at the moment, I don't think he's up to it. Inamura's got the perfect platform today to go out there and prove everybody wrong, prove that he is up to it. So it's on him now. It's on him.
So, when the starting 11 comes through, and I've not had the time to look through the comments, I'm pretty sure that there would have been an interesting read, Liam, the interesting comments on the X post when this team was announced. I've not had a chance to look through it, but for me, when you look at a team like that, you think, all right, well, let's try and pull some positives here. We're going to see Inamura in a competitive game. There you go. So let's have a look to see how he does. We know what Schmeichel and Ralston do. We know what they guys do. Then you look at the central defensive partnership of Murray and Scales. Scales being given the captain's armband, which I think fair play to you. I think this will be his 102nd game for Celtic, I believe, today. And a guy who was on the scrap heap and came off the scrap heap and worked so hard. He divides opinion, Liam. I think he's a player that will always divide opinion. But giving him the captain's armband today and playing him alongside Murray, who's still, half a dozen games into his Celtic senior career, I think it kind of galvanises Scales, because he realises, sometimes if you give somebody responsibility, Liam, they behave and they operate in a completely different way, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. It's an honour that he's earned through his effort, because I think even people who have questions about his ability, no one questions his commitment. He's always a guy who leaves it all in the park. That's not up for debate. And I think characters like that deserve the captaincy when it's available. So good for him on that. And like you say, it could be a chance for him to really step up and lead, because he's, him and Ralston both are going to have to perhaps shepherd the other two members of the back four through certain points of the game today. Inamura's inexperienced at Celtic. Murray is just generally inexperienced. So it's a question of getting those two through the game. And I think Scales has hopefully got the leadership qualities to do that, and that's why he's the captain today.
No, absolutely. And we know that obviously we've got an injury to Trusty, which Brendan spoke about as well. So he doesn't make it. Carter Vickers being rested, as you can see on the bench. You might be asking, where is Simpson Pusey? I'm going to bring up a comment in a wee moment or two about that. Because again, it would have been good, I think, in a game like today to say, well, in you go. This is Scottish football and you're going to have to earn your spurs. He's not even on the bench. He's not a player who was even mentioned at the press conference, Liam. Bit of a mystery surrounding that one.
Well, what I would say to that is that whenever you sign a player from an EPL team, he's always going to be about 2 or 3 weeks behind Celtic in fitness, because their season starts, their season only started last week. So there is that. There's also the fact that he was not, I don't think he was part of their first team squad pre-season, so he won't have had that level of... Basically, I think he's probably not match sharp yet. I think that's the main issue. But again, why are we signing players with a view, I would assume, to playing them in Europe, and they're not going to be fit and ready by the time the qualifier comes around? To me, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. This word keeps cropping up on the show, and it's dysfunction. Seems very dysfunctional, fragmented, Liam, We move into the midfield, and once we've gone through the team, I'm going to be bringing in the comments from the comment section. Big shout out to every one of you for sticking with us yesterday. There was an issue with the platform we use, and it took 3 attempts to actually get the thing going. Liam and I were on before this stream to make sure we did a live test. It was on YouTube, but it was a private link just to make sure the sound was okay. And as far as we know, everything is back to normal. Thank goodness for that, because the platform couldn't answer any of our questions. It wasn't just us, though. Steve-O from Celtic World Order had the same issue the other night, so it must have been a temporary thing. A little gremlin in the system, Liam. We're not saying that it's any of the tech guys at Celtic trying to infiltrate us and bring us down. Remember,
that would suggest competence. Come on.
Well, you'd need to be pretty good. You're right. You'd need to be pretty good at your job to do that. Max Headroom. Remember, there was a thing during the 80s or 90s where a Max Headroom type character took over the airwaves, and it was like a proper hacking scenario. Can you remember that?
There's a whole YouTube documentary about that. To this day, they don't know who done it. It was like a Canadian TV station or something, and it was just a guy dressed as Max Headroom doing various rude things live.
That's right.
I still don't know how it happened.
Well, I think it is somebody, maybe in a Michael Nicholson mask, trying to do it to us the other day there, just to pull us offline. Here we go. I'm going to bring in some of your comments in just a second. But the midfield, again, it's one of the ones, Liam, where you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, how many How many couches am I watching this game behind today? But then you look at the midfield and you think, all right, it's going to be interesting to see how this three are able to play together. So we've got Paulo Bernardo getting, a seldom seen kid this season. He's getting a very unusual and irregular start for Celtic. And he's a player that I do rate really highly, just not the game time. Arnie Engels, obviously, he's another one who divides opinion, and I think he'll continue to do so until he has like a commanding performance in the Champions League or against Rangers. And Luke McCowan as well gets another start, the man who set the ball rolling this season against St Mirren. It's going to be interesting. Who plays the McGregor role, if you like, with the 2 8s in front of him? Who plays the deeper role, do you think, Liam?
I would hope it will be Engels, because I think that's where he'd be best suited. But I suspect it might be Bernardo.
I'm thinking Bernardo. I think Bernardo steps right into that position. I do believe that Engels can play there. And I remember when Bernardo's move was made permanent, one of the questions was, what is your best role here at Celtic Park? And he said, I'm an attacking midfield player. I'm not sure he is, Liam. I'm not sure that's where his best attributes are. So it'll be interesting to see where he lines up today. Up top, we spoke about it. Nygren is moving over to the right-hand side. We've got Yang on the left and Shin Yamada through the middle. Right, let's talk a wee bit about Shin Yamada then, Liam, because he's a player, again, that's come in with little fanfare. He was put into that bracket of club signing by Brendan until he started changing his tune a wee bit. He's not really had a chance to show us what he can do. Today's the day.
Yep. I tell you now, if he gets a goal or a couple of goals today, questions will be asked, does he start on Tuesday? I think that it's because none of our strikers this season have stepped up and really shown that they should be the number one. So, perfect chance for Shin to not only get, open his Celtic account today, but also to stake a claim for Tuesday.
What I want here, I'm going to touch on Ida, not so that we can tear strips off him. I'm going to touch on the Ida situation because, of course, Adam Ida's injured today, and it was spoken about yesterday by Brendan Rodgers. So what I'm going to be most interested in seeing this afternoon from players who are maybe playing a game that out of position, although he can play there, i.e. Nygren and Yang, because he doesn't tend to play on the left. What I'm wanting to see from the two wingers is how they perform, because we could be in a situation next week, because obviously it's a plastic pitch we're playing on next week, isn't it, against Kairat.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that thinking to myself, right, okay, I want to play Maeda through the middle. That's maybe going to be forced due to the fact that Adam Idah is injured. What's it going to look like with Yang on the left and Nygren on the right? Because we are going to have to start looking for different dynamics now. No, it wouldn't be my first. It wouldn't be my first choice. But Jamesy Forrest, weighs hamstrings and everything else. Pulling up on the plastic pitches and all that. You've got to take everything into consideration. I'm not a massive Yang fan. I know that many in the comments field think that he has done the business and he does deserve a jersey, Liam. But, when we go out there next week to play against Kairat in the second leg, Nygren on the right, Yang on the left, do you think it's an option for you, a realistic option?
Only if it means Dyson is playing up front.
Agreed.
That's the only way it works. Personally, based on what we've got available, I would go with Dyson on the left and Shin up front, assuming that Ida's injured. That would be my preference, because I think that you can always move Dyson into the middle if we find ourselves needing goals and go with two up top. If we're chasing the game, but Yang, I defend Yang. I think there is a player there. I think he's good enough to be in a Celtic squad. I don't think he's good enough to be a Celtic starter at the moment. But he's not a match winner. He's not that James Forrest type that you're looking to the bench for inspiration when you're needing a goal with 20 minutes to go. At the moment, perhaps James Forrest is the only guy in the squad that actually offers that. I think the game, the ability to change a game from the bench.
Yeah, that would be good as well. Going into next week's game, Liam, to have some kind of an option offensively on the bench that you can call upon. I think Jamesy Forrest would fit that, and he's one of the guys that at 34 we shouldn't really be starting him or expecting him to start a lot of games, Liam. But I do quite like him on the bench to make the impact. The experience speaks for itself. He's played. I think he's actually played every game we've featured in Kazakhstan. James Forrest has been part of the team in all of the games. You know,
right,
so he's got that experience. And what I mean by that is you know, it really is all about the acclimatization to the heat over there as well, and the conditions and the environment that you're playing in. So he knows what to expect. I'm going to bring up some of the comments before we get a proper look at the bench, and then we'll have a wee look also at the Livingston team as well. Loads of great comments coming in. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Well over 1,300. Jungle Lion, this is an interesting one. Did the Man City player GSP refuse to play for the B team during the week? I've not heard that. And to be honest with you, it's one of these situations that to get up to speed, and we know everybody knows the level of the B team or the level that their B team are playing at, rather, Liam. Yeah, if you're asked to play, it's not a slight on you. You're just, you know, trying to get somebody up to speed so that you can then play in a game. If that's the case, I can understand why he's not in the squad today.
At the end of the day, he's an employee of the club, and if the club say you're going to do something, then you should do it. It's not really you don't get to pick and choose what games you play when you're a professional footballer. You play when you're told to play. So.
Back in the day, Liam, footballers were expected to do numerous things outside of actually kicking a ball, and it might have been, you know, going down to open the new hot point in High Street and standing there, you know what I mean, with a fridge freezer and all this nonsense. I remember some of the terribly contrived photographs of ex-Celts, you know, promoting like pagers and mobile phones and all the rest of it. So if you're asked to play a game of football, go and play it. Go and play the game of football. Show the right application. Take it as a compliment that you're actually going to be looked upon as being somebody who the other guys can learn from as well. Because if Simpson Pusey with Champions League experience at his age, 19, walks into that Celtic B team alongside other players of a similar ilk, they'll all be looking up to him, Liam. So you use your experience to assist your teammates as well.
And at the end of the day, me, you, probably I would say almost all of the 1,300 people in the comments, it's our dream to pull on that jersey and go and play a competitive game. Something we'll never do, but it is our dream. And any player who doesn't respect that, I think I wouldn't want them at Celtic. Now, again, I don't know if this story's true. I hope it isn't. I really hope it isn't, because I don't want to believe that we would sign a player with such poor character.
We don't want any negativity, because things at the moment are, you know, already complicated enough. Yeah, it's complicated enough as it is without folk throwing that kind of nonsense into the situation as well. Jack the cat. There you go. My cushions are positioned behind the couch. Okay, so yeah, we'll be all right, Jack. We'll be fine. We'll be absolutely fine, because as Liam said before, I mean, there's a level of player. And some of the guys we've mentioned who are starting today are pretty much fringe players for Celtic. Inamura's never kicked a ball competitively for the club. He's making his debut today. Shin Yamada's making his first start. Paulo Bernardo, first start of the season. He didn't start against Falkirk, did he? Came on. So, yeah, it's one of the ones where it's an unfamiliar starting 11, but I do think that the players are going to have enough. And obviously, we do have the experience on the bench if we need it, and I'll be bringing that up now. We have BB. Inamura hat-trick of assists. What I liked, let's start off with Inamura then, because what I liked from what I seen during the pre-season, which was every minute of all the games, we played 7 games in pre-season, so there was enough in there to have a look and say, right, do I fancy this player? What he, for me, brought to the side instantly was an offensive kind of focus. So as soon as he got the ball, Liam, he was looking to make the front pass. He wasn't looking to go sideways or back. And Greg Taylor, who gave Celtic some great service and has moved on, he was inclined to go back and constantly go back. So what I liked about Inamura, he's a very offensive-minded defender. And I know that he's signed pretty much as a left-sided centre back, but he can play left back. And I was impressed. I mean, has he had a challenge? Probably not. He's probably not had the challenge that we want him to have defensively, Liam, before we throw him into a big game. Certainly next week, you wouldn't want to throw him into a game like that. But It's good that he's re-entered the fray, because I don't think Liam Scales will ever be a left back, and he was being used as our backup. So from today, Inamura, yeah, you can't play in Europe because you're not in the squad, but Inamura should be thinking, I can build on this. I can become the second choice left back.
Am I not right in thinking, though, that after the game on Tuesday, whether it's Europa League or Champions League, we can register a new squad, so it could come in then?
Yeah, you flip it. You can flip it then. Yeah, so again, with regards to the
it's only
transfer
Tuesday
window,
that he's missing out.
He's missing out on that one game, yeah.
Aye. But yeah, it's all down to how he plays today. I think he's got enough to... I think he's good enough to be in the squad. I think he's good enough to be Kieran Tierney's backup. But at the moment, Brendan Rodgers obviously isn't convinced. And I think, judging by the comments, I think maybe 60-40 in favour of Inamura, but there's still people who are not sure about him as well. And we just haven't seen enough of them. We haven't seen enough of them to know one way or the other.
No. So we've watched these minutes on the park. The gaffer's watching them every single day in training. So today's the day. As I said about Shin. Let's watch them. Let's see what they can do in a competitive game. Quinny, there's a lot of expectancy today. Yeah, Livingston, newly promoted, a bit of a yo-yo club. They've got a history of being a difficult opponent, particularly away from home. Not a team that is all that fashionable, Liam. But this is Scottish football. So if you're going to join Celtic, this is your bread and butter. Go out there, perform well, get a result.
It's also very good training for going up against a team like Cairo, because they are equally stuffy, hard to break down, physically imposing. They will be more attacking on Tuesday than Livy will today, but it's a similar kind of team we've got to play through.
Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Quinny, always great to know that you're in the background watching along. Great contributor for Acsom. And Daniel Kelly, how is it down in Millwall, Daniel? I'd make McCowan captain. Right. The reason I bring this up, obviously, Luke McCowan was the captain at Dundee. And there's a point here. Here we go. I'm going to link this in. FGC says, Scales being made captain just shows how far we've fallen. Right. Now, as Daniel says there are other options on that park, FGC. He could have made Luke McCowan captain. He has had that role at a former club. He could have made Kasper Schmeichel captain. The experience that he has is quite incredible. Tony Ralston could have been the captain when you think about the experience that he's got at Celtic as well. So I think it's more than just about making him captain. I think it's also a bit of a boost for Liam Scales, Liam, because there are other options on that park who could have been the captain, but the gaffer said, look, you deserve this. And I do think he deserves it.
Yeah, I think purely as a recognition of having played over 100 games for the club, aye. Give him his day in the sun. I think he's earned it.
And I think also, Liam, that illustrates the fact that regardless of what Liam Scales does, he's always going to have detractors. And why is that? Why do you think that is? Because some might, the simple answer might just be that he's not good enough. Well, I think he is. If you've played 100 games under Ange Postecoglou and Brendan Rodgers, then you are good enough. Now, Ange Postecoglou didn't quite fancy him, but again, he was deployed mainly down the left, wasn't he? I mean, I remember the game against Ross County with Tony Ralston scores in the 99th minute or whenever it was. And, he got an assist that night and he was rampaging down the left and all the rest of it. I think what he's shown is he's a better left-sided centre-back. And Brendan Rodgers trusts him, Liam. He trusts him. So if you've played that amount of games for Celtic, you're maybe not going to convince everybody, but you're certainly going to be part of that squad and you're good enough. Why is it that he is one of the guys, though, that he's got a very short leash when it comes to some fans?
A few things. One, because we brought him in from Ireland and the Irish League is not rated particularly highly. We then brought him back from Aberdeen, so essentially we signed him from another SPFL team, which is, again, something that a lot of fans look down upon. He's not a glamorous player, right? And then doesn't come from a glamorous background. So that's one. There is also the, I think, and I think there's a certain element of this with Adam Ida as well. There is a certain group within the Celtic support. I can kind of see the point of this, where sometimes they think, are you signing him because he's a good player or just because he's Irish? That's an unfortunate, but it is a question that some fans do ask. Is it just because of our historical connection to Ireland that we tend to favour players from Ireland who may not have been considered if they were from somewhere else. That's a question. And I think that Scales is maybe an unfortunate victim of that.
Liam Scales, for me, deserved the new contract that he got. He's performed really, really well domestically. He's performed really well in the Champions League. I mean, I think back to the Atalanta game last season, and Liam Scales and Trusty were brilliant that night. Absolutely fantastic. He's not perfect. Who is? He's not perfect, and he's had some really, really poor games for Celtic as well. But I think over the 101 games that he's played so far, he deserves his place, and I think that it's recognition of that the fact that he's got the captain's armband today. Jack the Cat, you're back in. Maybe Livingston come out and attack after seeing the lineup. If they did that, I think it would be a case of Celtic picking them apart. If they were to
much better game to watch if they did. So I hope
they do. It would be, Liam, absolutely. If they were, I think most teams that come to Celtic Park, if they do attack, there is that risk that Celtic will score 3, 4, 5 goals because you just pick them apart. Christopher Patterson, and we should be in a situation actually where the system works to effect and the personnel should be able to fit the system, so that our system wouldn't change. We would still be able to do that. Livingston is a stubborn team at the best of times, but Celtic are a lot weaker this season. So if Celtic win, it'll be a nervy 1-0 win. I'm hoping for a wee bit more than that, Christopher. But you know what? We've never seen this team playing together, this starting 11. So we're going into the unknown a little bit. Livy should never beat us at Parkhead ever. They never have. They've never actually defeated us. Celtic, but my hands are touching a wooden table. I was going to say touching wood. Right, here we go. We've also got Patella Republic, nice avatar. Either a stroke of genius or a day of rage. Whatever happens, we're going to be here at half-time and full-time, right? Maybe the gremlins will happen at full-time and put us all out of misery. Paul Meekin, this board better make moves now. Stop messing about. I seen when the starting 11 came out, a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is a message from Brendan." No, it's not. Brendan wants to get through in the Champions League, and he's resting these main men. It's as simple as that, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, what if Schmeichel gets injured today? I think he's confident enough with Sinisalo. But, resting the likes of Kieran Tierney and James F. Forrest and Callum McGregor, that is, and Dyson Maida, that is because we're in a situation that we shouldn't be in going into the second leg.
Those players are irreplaceable. If they get injured, then the team is fundamentally weakened.
100%. 100% agree with that. So that wasn't me that brought that up. Gremlins in the system. I think Shin will stand up today. 2 in the bag for him, 1 for McKeown.
Nice,
I would love to see it. I'd love to see it. We've got a couple of minutes left before we go live. Craig Rankin, personally, I'm looking forward to seeing how this lineup works today. There is a bit of that, Craig, absolutely, for Bernardo and a few others. It's time they showed they can cut it at Celtic. Bernardo's one for me, I think, that I've rated. I thought he had a bit like Adam Ida, in that he did enough during his loan period, Liam, that I wanted him to sign permanently. I think we got him at a very good price when you look at his age profile and what he was doing with the Portuguese under-21 team. But since then, nothing. We've seen nothing really of him this season. So I think it is an opportunity for guys like Bernardo as well.
Aye, absolutely. Because again, if he doesn't, this season is going to make or break his Celtic career ultimately. Either he breaks into the team or, as by now a former Portugal under-21 captain, he's going to have to he's obviously going to have ambitions to play for Portugal.
Yeah.
The full team. And he's not going to do that as a Celtic reserve. So you could argue, would he even do that as a Celtic first team player? But again, if we can do well in Europe and he's part of that, he's a fundamental part of that, then that's how he gets into the national team. Remember last season there was talk of Kuhn possibly getting into the Germany team on the back of his Celtic performances. Mm-hmm. And I would say Portugal and Germany are probably similar level in terms of the calibers of player they look at. So it's there for Bernardo at Celtic if he can prove that he's worthy of a starting place.
Yeah, you're right.
A chance to start that process.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then, he has played Champions League football for Celtic previously, and he's done really well at that level. So he will have these aspirations. Thomas Burns, couple of comments before we go to the live action. Should we have postponed this game?
No.
This Thomas, I just think it would have built a real tension. The tension's already there. Beating Livingston's not going to release all the tension, Liam, but the tension would have been so high going into that second leg had we not got a game in between it, I think.
The best way to go for a bad result is go out and get a good result.
And a few goals, yeah, and a few goals, absolutely. Starting 11, the fault of the board's lack of recruitment. Yeah, because if you look deep enough into it, Davey, I agree with that. And that's the reason why we didn't perform as well as we should have done the other night. We've also got Ewan Boy. Ewan's a big fan of Yang. He's hoping for, hey, listen, big man, I hope for a Yang hat-trick today as well, even if it's a hat-trick of assists. And Mick Nolan, always great to see you in the comments section, Mick. Well done, Liam Scales. I'm going to leave it with that. Let's go to the action. Liam Carrigan, another Liam. Go and enjoy the first 45. It's going to be interesting. And we will join you at half-time on a Celtic State of Mind.
Cheers.